Well, hi folks, and welcome to Art Tips with John. I'm your host John Morris, welcoming you to another show that teaches you how to build your art business and also develop your artwork. In today's show, I want to talk to you about brushes, canvas, and paint, and so much more that we're going to try and cover in today's show. It's one of our most popular questions that we get asked is, what kind of materials do I need to get started with? One of my art students previously had commented and said that they had spent maybe £150 to £200 on art supplies just to get started, to which I nearly had a heart attack. Because you don't need to spend that amount of money. When we worked it out on a price list and she came to me, you've probably got maybe about £30 that you need to spend to actually get you started up with art supplies, and I'm going to teach you that and so much more in today's session. So let's start with brushes. Popular question that I always get asked is, which brush does which job? So let's run through our base brushes. Okay, so here we've got our 2-inch brush. Now this brush is really good for things such as base colours. So if I want to cover this canvas, which is really big, I would load this brush up with paint, a little bit of water because I'm using acrylic paint, and then you can literally go from side to side to side to side really quickly, and it works amazingly. Okay, and you can do that on this size canvas. You can cover the entire thing in probably about 2 minutes. Okay, as opposed to using a much smaller brush, which would take you forever. Okay, other brushes that we've got. We're going to switch now to our 1.5-inch brush. This is a really good brush if you are adding things in like the waves and development there, and you know, again, you need to cover the canvas fairly quickly because the paint dries really quickly. It's a good idea to get a decent sized brush and then begin working in. You've also got really good control with this size brush as well. The third and fourth brush that I want to introduce you to, you can kind of use both pretty much in the same way. One gives you more control than the other. The 1-inch brush and the 1/4-inch brush, okay? So basically, I would use these brushes when I get into smaller detail for our base colours, such as pulling down into colour here and to blend things together. This is also a really good brush, in fact both of them are, for painting clouds and for doing other development as well. Let's actually switch into a painting now that we have got clouds in, okay, and zoom out. Okay, and now we've got a painting behind me that has lots of clouds in. Okay, now this painting is called The New Palette. It is my wife's favourite, so it hangs in our living room and only prints are available. This brush here is really good if you're doing clouds up in this area, if you're putting the base colours down onto the mountains and beginning to work in rocks, and also the waterfall can be done in the 2-inch brush. It can be done with a smaller brush as well, but these are really good base brushes to get your base layers in. So let's go now to some of the more technical brushes. I've got a few more technical brushes on hand that I'm going to run through with you really quickly now. So we have our fan brush here. Now this is a great brush if you want to do things like the evergreen trees, if you want to add ripples into your water. This brush works really well, and it comes in all different shapes and sizes, but they all look like a fan. I personally prefer a brush that I've got called my micro fan brush, which is probably about that long and probably about that high and really thin, but this is actually a medium-sized fan brush that I actually picked up when I was in the United States. It's been used a lot. Other brushes that we have are the liner brushes. So we have a short hair liner brush, and we've got, you guessed it, a long hair liner brush. Now what's the difference? It's basically the length. You have more control with this brush if you are signing your name. However, if you are looking at doing longer trees and tree arms and tree branches, I would recommend using the long hair liner brush, because you can load it in, you can basically load it in with paint, and then you can just bring all these beautiful little tree branches all over the place really quickly, and it works really fast and really well as well, which is the thing that you're looking for most of all when you're painting, is something to make it as easy as possible for you. Okay, let's see if this works again. The final set of brushes I want to teach you and talk to you about are things called the mop head brush and the long handle brush, but this painting kind of served its purpose and I can't use it. I need to switch to another painting, so let's do that Now, okay, so now behind me we have our world famous red blossom tree. This is certainly one of them. We've had many series that literally are now sitting in homes all over the world, and the red blossom tree is a really popular thing. I'll get to it another time. The painting itself is built up with a number of different brushes, a lot of which we've talked about already, but two of the really popular ones are the mop head brush and a little long handle filbert brush. Now, the mop head brush, let me start with that. Why is it called a mop head brush? Well, because it looks like a mop head first of all, but one of the really cool things with the mop head brush is, and I'll show you my hand really close up, if I start dabbing like that, it doesn't do too much. However, if I press straight on, it bends the bristles upwards. Now you may be thinking, why is that important? Well, if you want to create and achieve a look similar to this with foliage and then with colour on top, this is the perfect brush for that. You can cover that area really, really quickly, and it's great for creating foliage if you're doing forest paintings, if you're doing tree paintings, if you want to do something a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more mystical. This brush is absolutely perfect for that, and I picked this up. This is the only brush that I've still got I'll try again. This is the only brush I've still got from when I was in the United States. So, that's one of the brushes there. The final two brushes I want to introduce you to are, as I said, you've seen this one already, the long-handled filbert brush and the long-handled roundhead brush. Now, I've got many long-handled brushes. Why, you may say? If you're an art teacher and you've only got small brushes, what tends to happen is you put your hand up here and I'm doing this. Now, you can't see what I'm doing. Okay, even if I zoom the camera in really, really closely, you can't see what I'm doing. However, if I move my hand down here, I can use all these different techniques and do exactly the same as what I was doing before. It just means that my audience can see really, really well. Both these brushes, you would use these again for better coverage, if you've got a bigger surface area that you need to cover fairly quickly, but also if you're teaching. They work very similar to the roundhead brush and the filbert brush that I showed you earlier on. Final question that people are asking during this tutorial is, what size canvas should I be using? Well, let's have a look at that now, shall we? Two very large canvas, the red blossom tree, which you've just seen, and a new palette, which you got to see earlier on. Now, these are really, really large canvases, about 90 by 90 centimeters, gives you a perfect size if you are looking for some really big canvas that you can lose yourself in, almost like a fantasy scene, where your audience member will look at them and it's like, gosh, I can just imagine myself being there. Now, for a lot of people, these, especially starting out, may be a little bit too much. You may get a little bit overwhelmed and a little bit more terrified about painting upon them because they are really big, and a lot of students face the fear of what happens if I make a mistake. Well, if you've been painting with me before, you know one of my golden rules is don't worry, let it dry and paint over it, okay? Some of these canvases have been painted over quite a few times to get their final look and achieve their final, I suppose, composition. But not everybody wants to paint on ginormous canvases. So, if you want to paint on small canvases, these are some of the sizes that I would recommend. Okay, so behind me we have a couple of different paintings, and these are from an artist from Africa. These are my wife's. She absolutely loves them. She loves collecting artwork too. So what we've got here is a 20 by 30 size canvas. It's still a fairly decent size, and it's a good long canvas. Again, you can get a lot of good ideas and a lot of creativity down from these paintings. This one behind me is about a 12 by 16 to 16 by 20 sized canvas. Again, the same thing. That will allow you to get some really good, I suppose, coverage and get some really good ideas down on canvas that you can practice on, that you can work on, and it's a really good size that the painting itself isn't going to get lost in, you know, in the living room or on a wall. Some artists that I know like to paint on really small canvases, and that's good if you're looking to do intricate detail and something that's a little bit smaller, a little bit more quaint. Maybe you've got a smaller home and you're looking for something smaller. But if you are starting out and you're just getting used to your detail, I would recommend go with a medium-sized canvas, about 12 by 16 or 16 by 20, and that will really, really help. Canvas brands that I would recommend, again, are Winsor & Newton, but they can be quite expensive. A more, I suppose, discounted price would be Crawford and Black. Paint-wise, I wouldn't recommend Crawford and Black as much, but, you know, they're okay, they're okay. but I would certainly recommend Crawford & Black for canvas. That gets us on to our final point on which paint to use. Just while I'm touching on this, in next week's show, we are going to be talking about the difference between stretch canvas and canvas board, but I'll get to that next week. It's just so you know that this is basically a two-part show because we're running out of time. I've literally got maybe 2 more minutes that I can cover this with. So what kind of paint would I recommend you use? Okay, paint that I have used for years, and I absolutely love this company. We are not an affiliate with them as yet, but we may be, so do check out if we've got an affiliate link very, very soon. And the paint that I use is acrylic paint, and it is Reeves acrylic paint. I also use Daler and Rowney, but these are the two that I had to hand. Reeves acrylic paint gives really good spreadage, really good coverage, good pigment. It doesn't crack, it doesn't fade, and when you're cleaning your palettes as well, it's also quite simple to get it all off. Daler and Rowney, again, similar things, really good coverage, and a really good pigment, but it dries more like a crumbled plastic on your palette, and it sticks a lot more, which is good when you're painting, not so good when you are cleaning your palette. We will go into more depth in time, obviously, with paint and what paint to use, how to use it, etc, etc. But I would recommend probably the 400ml tubs. Good value for money. You can pick these up from the range at probably around $6.99, $7.99, something like that. The Daler and Rowney you can pick up at the 750ml for probably around the same price, actually. So if you're looking for a middle of the road kind of paint, that is the one to use. Well guys, we're going to stop there because we are out of time, but I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to get started really and the equipment that you would need for painting. Guys, I've been your host, John Morris. I hope you've enjoyed this show. Please, as always, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Help us to grow and help us to help you. As always, please feel free to check us out at johnmorrisartfromtheheart.com for all our latest hints, tips, tricks, blogs, products, DVDs, school teaching and all sorts of other things that are out there. And of course, you know, you get free discounts and all sorts of other things with us as well. So guys, until next Tuesday, have an awesome week, take care, God bless, and I will see you next week at the same time here for more artist tips.